Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hotel Moment, Season 3. Today, I am so excited to introduce our guest, Angela Harrington, owner of the Hotel Grinnell and the Highlander Hotel. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. I am really, really excited to talk to you. As we mentioned before, it's not very often that we see many women hotel owners, so it's very exciting. So I really want to hear what brought you into the hotel industry first, and you know what I mean? Like, how did you get into it?
Okay. Well, I would tell you that I'm a serial entrepreneur. So regardless of what I've done, there's always been, even as an entrepreneur working for others or, um, uh, you know, no matter the job, I've always been very entrepreneurial in everything I've done. So in the hotel, funny that I put myself through college working at the Holiday Inn in downtown Denver. And then I did not work in hotels after college or for a long time. And then I, my, I did a few things as an entrepreneur with a large company and doing startups, subcorps for them. And then decided I needed to own a summer camp. So I owned a summer camp for about 9 years actually, and grew it to about 500 kids.
Wow.
Then I really lost my mind, went into the restaurant business, had a colossal, my big fat juicy failure in business was in the restaurant business in 2008 in the crash. And then I decided that that needed to count for something. So I really loved my role in community development over the years, um, as you know, in business leadership and so forth. So I decided to reinvent myself as that so that my failure could count for something. So I did that for a long time, and then I fell in love with a project I was working on in my role as in Grinnell as the Chamber of Community Development CVB exec in small communities. It's all one person, and so I figured out that there was no way that this project, the one I'm sitting in right now, Hotel Grinnell, was going to go anywhere if I didn't jump in and be the operator. Because small hotels, really difficult to find an operator.
Yeah.
Doesn't have, several hundred rooms. So I decided to jump into it, and I absolutely love it. And it wasn't very long after I opened Hotel Grinnell that I started looking for my next project. And
I'm
I
sorry. I'm going to just stop you right there. I want to back up a little bit. So with Hotel Grinnell, you didn't own it at that point, right? Did you own it at that point? You were working with the CVB, and then you jumped in to do the operations for this property.
Well, I ended up jumping in as the developer,
Okay.
um, trying to put a really complex financial stack together. It's very rare, and luxury hotels just don't happen in small communities, and so it was a very long, arduous project to get it to pencil out because um, luxury hotels or upscale hotels do not pencil out on their own in small communities, in anything really, except the very largest urban metros, especially that boutique kind of thing. I jumped in as the developer because it wasn't going to go anywhere, and so then I put it under contract and found a partner and did the financing, and with a lot of help from a lot of different amazing mentors, somehow figured it out. So we opened, I don't know, 3.5 years ago, and then a year or that year after we opened, I was looking for my next project and put about 5 different projects, hotel projects, um, through a pretty serious due diligence process. And the only one that passed all of those hurdles and due diligence exercises was the one in Iowa City at the Highlander Hotel.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a lot. You really do. You see something that you want and you do it. I think that's amazing. Do you think that you're getting through college working in hotels? Do you think that had anything to do with where you are now?
Um, I don't really. I mean, I think that um, I'm very grateful for every single one of my experiences, every single one of my jobs. I mean,
Yeah.
even to, working at the grocery store in high school. Um,
Yeah.
it's almost like the aggregate of that, of all of that life professionally, if you can call it that. But um, you just that whole set of skills that you learn over, you know, 25 years. Um, it's interesting that I pull different pieces of things that I learned at a very young age. It
Yeah.
felt like it just prepared me uniquely to be in this business.
Yeah, I mean, I worked in a grocery store too. I will tell you, I will never forget the PLU number for bananas. So, anyone else who's worked in grocery, I bet you have a bunch of random produce PLU numbers that you can't forget.
When I worked at the grocery store, you had to key in the price. Wasn't a scanner.
Oh, yeah. Now they can just scan the little sticker, but I had to know every single number associated with every type of produce in the grocery store, and I had to do it super quickly.
I hope that they come out with technology, especially in my industry, that you could just leave the hotel with some random thing and it just is chipped somehow and it just charges your card.
Angela, we already have a question, and I think it's a fantastic one from Kelvin. I'm going to put it up here on the screen. He wants to know what is worse, a tour bus full of guests arriving at the hotel or 500 kids at day camp? Was it day camp or was it overnight camp?
It was both. Uh, I would say both are equally fabulous. So,
Fabulous. There you go.
I really have an odd personality, and I think a lot of hospitality people do. I mean, I live for when the bus pulls up, you know, that go time and, time to get your big girl pants on. And,
But they're
it's,
all pre-keyed, right? Pre-reg. Like we're not.
it's difficult when it's a huge surprise, but I think you find there's a lot of stories to be told when the bus pulls up and it is a surprise. So I would tell you that they're actually quite similar, and I just love them both. The last year has definitely been the most trying of my career because the bus is not ever pulling up. I mean,
We're all kind of hoping for that school bus full of kids to
yeah, or
pull up.
it's just I live for that. Just the busyness, the hustle bustle. I'm also one that really takes being prepared. Um, to the nth degree because you can get there just about anything if your people are well trained, if people are cross trained. You can always,
Yeah.
you know, mobilize resources how you need to in a very short period of time. That's also why I really like being an entrepreneur because, we move really, really quickly and decisively when conditions change, whatever
Yeah.
those conditions might be. And I would lose my mind if that had to go, up through multiple chains of command to figure out how to do things differently in a short
Yeah.
time.
You mentioned 2008 and you mentioned, being in the restaurant business and it being a failure, but given what we just talked about, you learn something from every part of like your career, regardless if it's at the grocery store or even at that restaurant. I'm sure there's a lot that you learned from being in a restaurant in 2008. How would you compare that to this past year?
Well, first of all, I would tell you that my colossal failure was the time that I learned more than any other time in my life. So I wouldn't trade it for the world, actually. I mean, it was devastating. It was personally, it was just devastating financially and talk about starting from zero. But I wouldn't trade it for the world because, um, and a mentor of mine, an investor actually said one time, I don't invest in any entrepreneurs who haven't lost it all once because the unbridled optimism, um, of entrepreneurs when it doesn't come with a degree of caution, uh,
Mm-hmm.
can be dangerous. And so a really fabulous colossal failure really brings that sense of caution to an otherwise, optimistic. It's going to work.
Yeah. Cautiously optimistic is where we should always sit forever. That is my opinion. But so if you had to compare the two, are there any similarities between 2008, what happened in 2008, and what's just happened in 2020 that you could take away? Or that, yeah.
Several things are, it's just very, very different, I would say. In part because restaurants, as early as 2006, 7, felt the earth start to shake. And we didn't know what was happening or why, or, things were getting just a lot tougher. And I remember it felt like the business never really came back after Katrina. And why is that? And, and we never, until the actual crash, we didn't know what was happening. And so I, in hindsight, the economy was collapsing, but in the midst of it, if you were an early, if you were feeling that early, you just thought you were a horrible business owner, and there was a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, and why can't I pull this out?
Yeah.
Thing.
But going into 2020, did your instincts kind of kick in a little bit earlier?
That's why I'm so grateful that I had that experience, because back in 2008, and I guess that's part of just my story, but in 2008, you kind of didn't know what was happening. And in 22, and you kind of thought it's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. Surely something's going to happen to turn this around. And, until you're years past it, you kind of don't grasp that. No, then you look back and say, well, no one was coming. And that was really different. This time, I didn't waste time. Last time I wasted time thinking it's going to be okay. Surely it's going to work out. I'll find something will happen. This time it was like, no one's coming to save us. We need to decide what we're going to do now, today. And I acted very, very quickly. And I also made it my full-time job in this time to manage our relief and our survival. And that's not easy to do, especially when you're looking at, reduced workforce and that sort of thing. So yeah. I would tell you that it feels, when I look back on it in 2008, I feel like, I was just wasted so much time thinking there was going to be a save. And this time, immediately, I acted.
So what were your what did you take from 2008 specifically and put into that? What did you act on? Where did you invest your time?
Reducing expenses immediately, and at the very same time, exploring ways that we were going to mitigate the crisis. The other thing, 2008 was so different in that it felt like the duration of the event was so short.
Yeah.
So
is that just looking back, or did it actually feel short in the moment?
It was short. I mean, from when the earth started to shake to when I was, out of business, was maybe 6 months.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it went really, really quickly. And back then, I had a lender back then that it was the first bank that had their doors locked by the FDIC in Iowa. So, it went really quickly through the motions of, to complete collapse of the business quickly. And this one, I mean, there was some optimism early, maybe we, is this going to be a 90-day, because most entrepreneurs, most business owners, if there's not prior cracks in your business, I mean, you can figure out how to get through 90 days. Mm-hmm. But then when 90 days turned into 6 months, and then at that 6 month mark, it's like, holy cow, we're in this for a very long time. So each kind of awareness stage and kind of came with a different plan. But I would say day one, or very shortly thereafter, I was not only thinking about how are we going to keep the lights on this week, this month, but I was also really trying to begin, because development projects, it just takes a long time to get everything to happen. And so very early, I was thinking about, okay, how are we going to mitigate long-term damage?
Yeah.
Because between the two hotels, each hotel does about $1.5 million in sales, and $3 million of revenue vanished, and it's never coming back because hotel nights are perishable. And so how do you mitigate that? How do you not cripple your business for the next 5 years? I mean, this, pardon me, this time is crippling, but how is it not going to keep on giving in a bad way for years to come? So managing both the now and right, how are we going to figure this out?
I know one of the ways that you were doing this, and I think it is absolutely admirable, is that you started investing in your people.
Mm-hmm.
I know that that was one of the things that you did. And so do you want to talk a little bit about that and, why you saw that as the place? Like, if you're going to cut costs, like you're investing in your people instead.
Well, the worst long-term effect of an event like this is if you don't do it well in the meantime. First of all, I have a philosophy that is contrary to some in the industry, that I felt like going dark was the worst thing I could do. Just closing and wait for it to be over. Because so many, it's very difficult to restart that, to turn that around. So that was the first thing, that we're going to be determined to not go dark. But then it was, what was your question? Sorry.
So you invest in your people. Like, one of the most important things that you did was you invested in people. So I want to know, like, why did you decide that's where you wanted to, invest your time and your money?
Well, I consider my most important job to take really good care of good people. So that didn't come about because of the crisis. That's just been a long-term philosophy of mine. I mean, if you are with me for 6 months, you're likely to be with me for years. And if you even, entry-level housekeeping, if you're there for 16 months, at least 6 months, I'm not paying you under $15 an hour. So that is just, I find that if you don't have that minimum threshold, that all it does is create chaos for your business, because you really can't live and eat and for less than that. And so, and if people are at less than that for a sustained period of time, it just creates chaos for the business.
Well, yeah, and people are less likely to be invested in a company that is not going to take care of them, right?
Well, and I think most people are really optimistic that companies are going to take care of them. But at the same time, the chaos that I'm talking about is just the life in poverty is filled with, just constant, managing that. It doesn't allow you to grow professionally if you're only focused on actually putting food on the table.
Right.
So, and I've always been a big one also in cross training.
Yeah.
But that was something that we took to a whole new level, because I was determined to keep my core team. I could not keep the entire team. But I was determined to keep my core team. And we took cross training to a new level, because if there was going to be any bumps in business, we'd have to staff for what we could afford long term, but also figure out a way that if we did get a bump in business, we would do it well and we wouldn't miss a beat. So I would say reputation and is driving probably a lot of the investment in people, other than I, you know, I think that you need to leave it better than you found it. And that's not just the planet, it's buildings and communities and people.
And staff. Yeah. That
So,
housekeeper that you hire that's been with you for 6 months or years could be the best executive housekeeper that you've ever had. And they know that property now better than anybody possibly could, just
right.
because you
And,
took the time to invest in them. And I think
right.
that's very powerful and it's smart.
And I am really involved in every single person's professional development. I don't have another coach, shall we say, seasoned, meaning old, veteran coach. And so I really kind of keep my hands and keep my eyes on the entire team, because like my general manager here in Grinnell, she started 3.5 years ago as not even a head housekeeper, but a housekeeper, and she is now my GM.
That's amazing.
And I, if I hadn't been, really involved in her development, then I would not have seen maybe the rock star and that just grit and determination that she had. But on the cross training front, I mean, housekeepers can make a martini and bartenders can make a bed, and
housekeepers can probably make the best martini, if we're being honest.
Well, and obviously we're all good at what we're good at, but in a pinch, I mean, we had a storm in Iowa that brought a huge amount of business very short term for 17 days. And all of us did laundry. All of us, did everything. And now I was joking with not really joking, but I said, okay, now we're going to try and get in our lane a little bit more, because it feels like each individual person in their job isn't growing as much, because we spent so much time making sure every person could do everything. Yeah. Now let's get back into some lanes here and really kind of
but it's still really important that they are able to branch out, because maybe they can see in a different area or different department that they could actually do better in. And personally, if it wasn't for my housekeeping experience, I would never win the argument with my husband at the proper way to fold a towel. There is a proper way.
Or a fitted sheet.
And he is wrong. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting that on the record right now. And a fitted sheet, yes. I find that the majority of people do not know how to fold a fitted sheet. And
I don't fold fitted sheets. And the housekeepers, especially at the Highlander, I go just like
no.
And then I put it away. So yeah, there's
I think we're gonna fire you. The housekeeping department's going to fire you at the Highlander from being in their department. They're going to be like, you got to go.
I also find that it really gives people a sense of how the business works.
Yeah.
To be in every single role. It also, in the restaurant business, there's this grand divide between the front and back of house. About who's more important and who really runs things. And I find that cross training kind of mitigates that, because then everyone is very clear on how tough it is to be a housekeeper or a bartender or, front desk, that kind of thing. So I was determined to do it well. Mm-hmm. Even, because service is typically the worst when it's slowest, sure. Right? So I was determined to not have that happen. Especially the Highlander I bought in December of 2019. It's very new. It's very still, very vulnerable as a business, but it was dead last on TripAdvisor when I bought it.
Okay.
And then we relaunched 6 months later, having done the renovation. That was something else in the pandemic and how that all worked. But so we relaunched last July, and also still, obviously, I guess, still dead last across all of the OTA platforms and all the reputation sites. And 2 weeks ago, we're number one.
You're number one?
Mhm.
That's incredible. I was just going to say, so you have these two hotels. Obviously, they're doing well. You've invested in
Well,
the right things, that you're doing the right things. I heard a rumor that you may be looking into a third one
I am. Yep, I have
in a pandemic. Like you're looking at your next venture in the middle of like it's not you.
well, these
Yeah, that's
projects
amazing.
take such a long time.
Yeah,
So,
but you're not. You don't. You're not. You have not been defeated by COVID. Is my point
well,
here. You're
and
looking at
you
your next venture, and that's very inspirational. Honestly.
well, and you have to sort of tend those growth fires even in the middle of the building burning down. And you said your hotels are doing very well. They're not doing very well because they are hotels in a pandemic,
Yes,
and
that's fair.
it has been catastrophic. So
Yeah,
yes, we are crushing it on the guest engagement piece and the reputation piece. But it has been catastrophic. And I tell people frequently that 3 times since March of last year, when the pandemic hit, I've been 45 days away from running out of cash. Three
wow.
times in a year. It's just been horrific. I mean, even now, I mean, I have, under 5 guests a night typically. In
Hmm.
Iowa City, I see, maybe 20, 30 on the weekends, but that's in an 85-room hotel. So
Yeah,
this pandemic keeps on giving. And the other thing is everything about marketing is on its head. I mean, the
oh
more
sure.
that you tell people to come and that's going to be fabulous, the more they are fearful of it being unsafe. And so we're really into just managing, keeping top of mind, growing
Yeah,
awareness, but not being engaged in promotion, the promoting of
of
anything,
course.
really. So,
Of course. I
which
think
is
that
counterintuitive.
I think more so what I've meant is that you're not letting this keep you down. I mean, yes, it's hard for all hotels, but your stores are still open. You are still looking towards that future and you
Yes.
still think that it's worth investing in. And that's amazing. I do want to thank you so much for being on today. I think it's really important for hoteliers out there to see that, again, it is possible and we are getting through this. We are getting through it. I mentioned just recently that all of reports are indicating that, hopefully starting Q2 or at least the second half of this year, we should see occupancy picking up. Not as good
Mhm.
as 2019, but there is a light at the end of this tunnel.
Yeah.
So yeah, keep on fighting and keep on investing in your people and trying new things and learning how to fold a fitted sheet is going to be like, I think your New Year's resolution, right? It should
Absolutely.
be.
And it's just, it's a fantastic industry. And the things
Yeah,
that were hit hardest in the pandemic are all the fun businesses,
I know.
you know? And so I can't wait to be a part of bringing fun back. I mean, travel and restaurants and venues. And,
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately, it's been hit hardest. But, manage quickly and decisively. Don't wait for somebody else to come and save the day. But you've just got to power through one day at a time and look at that, that future mitigation of the effects of the crisis. At the same time, keep the lights on today.
And know that you are gonna go look back on this and you will have learned something, just as you did in 2008. Hoteliers that are in this right now, put it on your resume. I survived 2020. Like you had to do that, and you're gonna have
Absolutely.
so many amazing lessons from that. But I just want to thank everyone for joining today. You'll see us again in 2 weeks at noon on Thursday. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone. Bye.